Let's just get started, and stragglers can straggle in. And this is kind of a little bit more of an unstructured.
I'm just gonna.
Sure. Can I put it here?
Yeah, you can put it wherever.
All right. And I'm going to get you my recordings too.
Okay.
They'll be super quality. All right, here comes the big group. All right. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, where I am a son of First Presbyterian Church. Started going there when I was 1, under the old Dr. John Reed Miller days. You know, as one of my clients said, I had a drug problem as a child. I was drugged to Sunday school, drugged to church. And one of the most important events that happened to me was in 1978, I went to Ole Miss and sort of had to decide, you know, I was always drugged to church, so what am I going to do with my faith? You know, am I going to become a frat rat or whatever? Well, in God's providence, Jimmy Turner, who was youth minister at First Pres under Dr. Miller when I was a kid, just that year with Mark Lowry had started RUF at Ole Miss. And I went to class one day, and it was one of those classes where it's first day of class and they hand out the syllabus and say, y'all can go home. And so I wandered over to where I heard the new Reform University Ministries office was, because I wanted to say hi to Jimmy Turner. He had taught my communicants class. And he was literally unpacking boxes. And I was the first student to ever speak to an RUF minister at Ole Miss. He's like, well, come in, you're my first, you know, convert, or whatever, you know. So that sort of began the blessing of my having a relationship with God that was mine through RUF. Add to that, I met my wife through RUF. Add to that when I took my first psychology course and I realized, you know, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. The first place I ran was Jimmy Turner's office to sort of say, okay, you know, like, I just took a psychology course and this is what I want to do. I mean, I love this. Is that okay? It's almost like asking, you know, saying I've fallen in love with a non-Christian girl. Is that all right? You know, and he helped me start to think about, you know, yeah, as a Christian, you can engage psychology. You know, take it on. You know, world and life view. So anyway, my heart is very close to RUF and therefore RYM and also the role a youth minister plays. So that's a little of my history and how it ties in at a real heart level to what y'all do. I'm grateful for what y'all do, and it's a gift to me to be able to sort of be in a role to kind of give back. I love opportunities to work with RUF and with y'all too, so it's a blessing to me to be here. What I want to do this morning is, this is such an unstructured time, and I'm a little OCD, and what I would love to do is to use some of our time to finish my talk on adolescence from yesterday, and sort of round that out. If for no other reason, then it would be on the recording, and it would be yesterday's presentation would be complete. I will change that. If y'all say, hey, no, we're 3rd and 4th year people and we get you for an hour and we just want to tap your brain, do y'all have any real strong feelings either way? I don't think this will take all of our time, but are y'all okay with me doing the adolescent bit? Yes, sir?
I do have a question. You can see if it'll fit at the
Good.
end.
Yeah.
Because I would definitely want to hear the rest of your adolescent stuff.
And the next hour is going to be all Q&A. It's going to be stump the chump. Like, let's get down and dirty.
But anyway, my question pertains to pastoral confidentiality.
Yeah.
So you can just table that and handle it.
Yeah. And I want to deal with that in the big group too. Okay. Because that's somewhat of a policy y'all have as a, you know, as a church, or as your session, or as your presbytery, or as RYM, or whatever. I'll tell you what I think about it then. So y'all cool with that? Let's finish talking about adolescence and how they fit into these. We had talked about how you attach to an adolescent yesterday. We talked about letting them matter, hearing them, that authority stoplight of... by the way, y'all all look like you've been here a week. And I don't mean that in a kind way either. I mean, y'all have been here in seminars like every day for a week, right? That is a buggy whipping. Good night. All right. So we talked about how you connect with teenagers through that being willing to hear them as a person, not just as a kid or whatever. We started talking about boundary issues, and we were talking about them getting a sense of like who they are. And remember, we were talking about how they start developing relationships outside the family. All right, one of the ways they start developing in the whole boundary area is it's normal for them to have relationships outside the family. And remember, we talked about it's kind of parallel to how a toddler buddies up with dad. Dad's a parent, but he's not mom, so he helps me leave mom. My peers are an authority structure, but they're not my parents. So I can buddy up with my peers. And peers act as a sort of life preserver to help them pull away from their parents. And I told you that that's a really important role for y'all. Y'all can be kind of that third party, not quite a parent, but an authority person in their life role. Great, important role for y'all. But we want them to do this. I mean, we're adults, right? And our closest people are our friends, right? I mean, it'd be kind of weird for y'all if I stood up here and said, y'all, I gotta tell you, my mom is my best friend. It's so great, y'all. I mean, we went out to lunch the other day, held hands. It was awesome. I mean, y'all would kind of think that was creepy, right? So we sort of, as adults, we move into saying, you know, y'all are my best friends, my peer group, you know? And so that's kind of what they're starting to do. Parents will sometimes freak out about that. Because it's like, you know, we're losing or something like that. Another thing you'll notice, though, is there's a process with toddlers. You notice I keep comparing teenagers to toddlers because don't tell them, but it's exactly the same psychological dynamic. If you hang out with a toddler, they toddle away from you. They want to go over here and play. And if you're sitting there, on your laptop on the couch, before you know it, toddler will come back and pat your leg, or they'll crawl up in your lap, and they kind of want to check in. And there's that back and forthness that the French call rapprochement. And what it means is I'm going to reapproach. I'm going to be going out and practicing and having little adventures with my Lego, but I'm going to come back and make sure you're kind of here. And you'll see teenagers do that too. You know, ours would always kind of like go, you know, I don't want to talk to you, man, and blow you off for a day. And then at 11 o'clock at night, always at the best part of the movie you're watching, they come busting in the room and plop on the bed and they want to tell you their life story. DVR is the best thing ever happened to my parenting because I could just kind of go pause and I'm completely yours. And it's like, whoa, no, and you go, God, I missed it. Okay, now what do you want? And they feel really welcome. Anyway, you'll see that back and forthness, and that ambivalence sometimes makes parents crazy, and they'll complain about it, but it's really normal. It's that checking in. I want to make sure you're still here for me to leave you. That's kind of what they're saying, and they should be saying that. Now, another boundary issue is the issue of choices. And if this is a parenting conference, I would talk a lot more about this, but it has to do with sort of the way teenagers are disciplined. No, that's next. This is choices about making choices that are different from you. One of the things you'll see them doing is wanting to find ways in which they're different from their parents or maybe different from you. This is where they're looking for some way to grow their hair weird or pierce various body parts or funky music they're listening to. And they will look for some way to sort of be edgy. Part of the reason that they do these sort of funny choices is because teenagers literally have an impulse control problem organically in their brain. Like there's some really interesting CAT scan results that they showed just in the last couple of years or so, where they showed that the part of an adolescent's brain that has impulses to want to do things is more disconnected from their actual ability to think about those choices than it is in adults. In other words, feelings short-circuit into behavior for teenagers brain-wise, all right? That corpus callosum or whatever it is that's going to connect it together is still developing for a teenager, and so that's one of the reasons they'll shoot first and ask questions later, all right? So one of the things that we try to do with teenagers is just simply to help them think. One of the things that you can do in talking to them in a counseling kind of context is to be sort of help them develop an intervening variable by talking. If they say, man, I'm so mad, I don't want to like just go scream at my parents. So here's their feeling and here's what they want to go do. They're mad and they want to go scream at their parents. This is the impulse, this is the behavior. What's missing here is any sort of real cognitive processing. So sometimes real valid counseling with a teenager is to sort of say, you don't have to tell them you're doing this, but I go, tell me what made you so mad? What'd they say? What would you scream at them? Wow, what do you think that would give you? Well, how do you think your parents would react? Wow, what do you think it'd feel like afterwards? And what you're doing is, without telling them, you're saying, I'm going to engage your left brain. Okay? This is the same kind of thing we want to do with any impulse control problem. Why do you put drunks in treatment? Because they want to drink, so they drink. They have an impulse and they act on it. And you have to create a context in which they have to back off and think and process it. So with any impulsive behavior, which is most teenagers, the processing and the thinking part is the missing variable for them. So just, pardon me?
Somebody has ADD,
yeah, absolutely. ADD is in some ways too big a topic to tackle, but let me see, the short version is this. It can be because of an emotional struggle, it can be because of a brain issue, literally, it can be because I have an impulse control problem in general, but with anybody who is ADD, to the degree that you can get them to slow down and process and think, it helps them, okay? Basically, with the medical version of ADD, the symphony director that's keeping the instruments in sync and all playing the same song gets sleepy. Okay, and so he's not really paying attention, and so the clarinets are playing this and the drums are playing that, and that's why you give an ADD person a stimulant like Ritalin. I always wondered, why do you give a hyperactive kid a stimulant? Well, because it kind of wakes the conductor up who can go, wait, all right, wait a minute, we're doing a talk here, I need to pay attention and I can keep you engaged, all right? But from a relational perspective or a counseling perspective, anything you can do to help develop cognition that goes between the impulse and the action, the better. Yes, sir.
Is there a way, I've got a couple of boys who I can't get past, I mean, when I ask them questions like this, all I get is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a way to just kind of get them to really start thinking, or verbalizing all of this stuff? Because they literally will just sit there, I don't know, over and over.
Well, that describes most men, isn't that right, ladies? In your relationship with men? That's how insightful we are emotionally. What do you wish they would say? What do you wish they would talk about?
Well, I mean, I know some of their family history, so I wish that they would talk about their parents. But when I start bringing up their parents, wall goes up.
Right, yeah. Could you, without disclosing too much, could you give me an example of what you wish they would talk about their parents?
Well, I mean, I'd like to know why the relationship is so fractured.
Ah, okay.
Because like when I see parents, they're doing their best. It's a mother and stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And the son has never really known his father at all.
Mm-hmm.
But he just will not allow me. Either he doesn't want to think about it at all, or he doesn't want to share it with anyone.
Okay. He doesn't know his father at all. Does he have much relationship with stepfather?
He does. I mean, well, the stepfather tries really hard.
Mm-hmm.
The son will not.
He stonewalls him too.
Yeah.
Is he close to anybody in his family?
He was close to his grandfather, but his grandfather passed about a year ago.
Okay, so the story's getting deeper and richer. Why do you think he doesn't open up to people?
I don't think he trusts people.
Why not?
Well, he's, just from a physical standpoint, he's always been kind of smallest. He's been the one, other kids his age kind of picked on. And I don't think he thinks that he is worthy of love.
Okay.
Because, and I think what he thinks is that, we've got drug and alcohol problems here as well that he's dealing with. And I don't think that he thinks, the one thing he has said is that he doesn't think that he's worthy of any help or especially when I talk to him about spiritual things, he doesn't think he's worthy of God.
Okay.
But he won't go much past that.
All right. All right, y'all ready? We're about to engage the hyperdrive. What you do with this kid is more important than what you say to this kid. Okay? Who is he? No one really knows him. He's the little kid. He feels vulnerable. His dad is gone. His stepfather, iffy. His only real connection is grandfather, gone. Who does he have? What does he do? He doesn't open up. He pulls back. He shuts down. Why? He's a victim. He gets picked on. He gets hurt. He's scared. Does he matter? Does anybody care about him? Now, think about it. The worst thing we could do to him is become another relationship that has an agenda for him to do something he's not ready to do yet. Open up and talk to me. That's what you're supposed to do in counseling, right? Open up and talk to me. He don't want to do that. Now, the question I have for you, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a healing experience is worth 1,000 pictures. And I want to give this kid something that nobody else has ever gotten him, and that is, I want to put aside my agenda of what I'm supposed to do as a minister, and how I'm supposed to help you, and how you're supposed to act, and I want to love you at your spot, where you are. I want to be somebody you can say, I don't want to talk to you about any of this stuff. I don't know. And you know what? I'm cool with that. Let's have coffee. Tell me the best movie you've seen lately. I'm going to live on your terms. I'm going to make room for you, and I'm going to let you have a relationship in which you get to make the rules, not someone else. Just because you're little doesn't mean somebody else is going to take over and control you or leave you or set an agenda for you because this agenda matters more than you. You matter more than this agenda. And that kid's not gotten that anywhere in his life. And if you give him that, you won't be talking about the stuff you're supposed to talk about in counseling, but you'll change his life. Does that make sense? In other words, real one-on-one is not about, let's talk about your problems. Real one-on-one is trying to figure out what of these things is missing and give it to them. Okay? And the relationship you have with them, this is what I mean by fellowship. What we learned as we talked is what this kid needs. He needs somebody to throw aside their agenda and love him where he is. And what's going to happen is he's going to be taken in the fact that you're willing just to attach to real him, no agenda, no goal, no purpose, and if he doesn't want to talk, you're still cool and you still want to hang out with him. He's going to take that in at such a deep level. You're going to unbully him. Okay? That's how you really help people. What we learned from what he said is what this kid needed, and you can give it to him just by dropping that agenda. I'd say, well, if you don't know, man, that's cool. If you ever do know, I want to know. I'd love to hear you talk about it. If you never want to talk about it, then you buy the next cappuccino. Just play with him and love on him like that. Secondly, a piece of this, just to remember with teenagers, emotion is overwhelming sometimes. I had a kid once, this mom brought him to see me, and his father had just died. And she brings him, this happens all the time. The first question to ask a teenager is, do you want to be here? Did you get brought here? Anyway, she kind of brings him and sits him down and leaves the room like, okay, Doc, his dad died. And I'm like, do you want to be here? He's like, not really. I'm like, you doing okay about your dad? And he's like, yeah, I think so. So you want to talk about it? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Well, we got like 50 minutes to kill. I'll tell you what, 40 minutes. I'll spend 10 with your mom. My favor to you. My gift to you. Like, what? Tell me what music you listen to. And we just like shot the bull for 40 minutes. A year later, he came back. And he said, dude, thank you. Like, I would have, like, my head was just like blown up if I had touched that stuff about my dad back then. I couldn't do it then. And I really appreciate you giving me the space to do it. And he came back a year later and, you know, cried his eyeballs out. Okay? So again, I was basically saying to him, your agenda matters. Does that make sense? Super great question. Great grist for the mill for us to talk about it. Y'all with me on that?
We have a student that sounds very similar to what Krishan's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is it helpful to bring other students along into that kid's mess? And if it is, how is it unhelpful to say like, hey man, this guy's having a tough time, like he was really being alive, I think you were a friend to him, kind of like almost give another student a vision for loving on them, or are you kind of like betraying that kid's stress and saying, kind of making this other kid think like, oh, he's here, he needs help, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if I was the one down kid, I'd feel kind of humiliated by that. Yeah. If you want to engage the kids together, you know, I would more orchestrate groups.
Right.
You know, if I've got several kids and they all kind of deal with similar issues, and I try to hook them up for some kind of a, you know, little Bible study or something where they would kind of get to know each other, or pull together like that. Something you can do formally. Otherwise, I think once you start matchmaking, it sort of gets y'all outside of your field of expertise. All right, so they're going to be making these crazy choices. Look for the one. I always tell parents, look for the ones you can accept, because kids will do destructive, weird things until they kind of get their point across. Okay, and their dial will go to 11. And so, you know, if a child wants to, like, you know, dye part of their hair pink, I tell parents, go for it. Having a teenager is kind of like getting carjacked. You know, if you're sitting in your car and somebody knocks on your window with a gun, they can kill you. They can kill you and take your car. They can kill you and take your car and take your wallet and take your money. They can put you in the trunk of the car and drive your car off a bridge. There's a lot of bad things that can happen in a carjacking. If all they say is, give me the cash out of your wallet, this is the best day of my life. Okay? Now the parents who screw up their kids are the ones who don't realize this is a carjacking. What you cannot do is get away without losing anything. The parents who want to say, no way, I'm not giving you my car or my wallet or my money or my keys, you know, sorry man, they're the ones who get shot. In other words, this teenager is going to take something, and if all they want is your cash, go for it. Like mine used to call me John sometimes, and I'm like, fine, you know, I want to lock in at that rate. If this is as bad as it gets, if calling me John is as far as the volume, I'm like, okay, man, you can call me John, man, you know, and it's like, let them do it. Okay, because if you say, you will not call me John, you will call me Father, they're like, okay, well, then I'll call you John and smoke pot at the same time. And if you come down on that, it's like, well, I'll call you John and smoke pot and do it with some guy in the back of my car. I mean, they can take it up as far as you want. So the sooner parents kind of have room for a little edginess with teenagers that you can accept, you jump on this boundaries thing and say, I got room for you to kind of be, you know, hey, a little out there, man, cool. And they feel like they get that separateness, that individuation, that I'm different from you bit. Yeah.
In that case, is there a certain acknowledgement a parent should have to that? In other words, like, you know, hey, I went ahead and put pink in my hair without my parents' knowledge, and they didn't notice it, so I'm going to go to notch 2 now. I mean, in other words, do you counsel parents in acknowledging kind of this, hey, that's cool kind of thing, or whatever?
I wouldn't offer an evaluation, like, hey man, that's cool. Like, let's rap about that. You know, our parents who try to be cool, you know? But what I would do is, I mean, I always want parents to talk about a kid's world. Like, you got pink in your hair. Like, what's up with that? And I'm like, well, I just thought it'd be cool. I go, well, where'd you get it done? So-and-so. Oh my gosh, you mean y'all did it yourselves? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, How do you think I'd look with that? You know, it becomes kind of a funny family sweet thing, okay? I mean, I'd play with them about it. I wouldn't affirm it or disaffirm it. And that's going to have to do some, what we talk about.
I'm not saying affirming, I'm saying more acknowledge.
Oh yeah, acknowledge it. Recognize it like you would recognize anything. I want parents engaging the kids to notice stuff. Definitely not minimize it. I would definitely talk about it. I would get mine to make me music mixes. Let me listen to what you're listening to. What do you like about this? You know, who is Beyonce? You know. Anyway, I always tell parents to treat kids like kites. You let out as much string as you can before the kite starts to flounder. You know, and you feel it get grounded again, you can let out more string. Remember, the goal is to get rid of them. I think this also has to do like when they have wacky opinions. Talk with them like we talked about with attachment. And a lot of times this requires parents and mentoring people to manage their anxiety. You know, you have a kid who comes in and goes, man, I'm just not really sure about this whole God thing. You know, I always tell a parent or a counselor or mentors to, you know, chill with that. And instead of like, you know, getting afraid or thinking they're losing their faith or giving them a devotion book or whatever, I'd kind of want to go with them again and say, well, what are you thinking? What kind of problems you having? I mean, if they bring that kind of stuff to you, you have the opposite problem of you. They're bringing their hearts. And I would want to say, yeah, it is kind of hard to understand sometimes, isn't it? Or you have always grown up with it all, and I guess it's about time you started thinking about it. Being a teenager is kind of like taking a drawer that you've had somebody else fill up with junk your whole life and dumping it out on the bed and going through it and deciding what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. All right? They unscrew the top of their head and pour it out, and it's like, let's see, God, I want to keep that. It's like me and the Jimmy Turner story. That's a huge role that we can have, is to sort of sit with them while they go through that drawer and decide what they want to keep. That's the only way they can get that ownership, that sense of self we talked about yesterday, where I know who I am. Here I stand, I can do no other. I'm going to skip the discipline issue because y'all won't be disciplining them much. Though you will get interesting opportunities to interact with them in ways that reflect reality. One of the things that I tell parents is, discipline with little children is, no, do not eat the cat food. Okay? Discipline with teenagers is, really, you want to eat the cat food? Okay, well, you're paying for the emergency room visit. Okay? In other words, I want to start dealing with a teenager more to put them in connection with reality than me literally kind of punishing them or not. I want to say, in essence, you don't have to study, but if you have more than one C, you're going to be granted on the weekends. That's up to you. I don't got a dog in this fight. Your curfew is so-and-so. I am not going to be pacing around at 1 in the morning in my bathrobe worrying where you are. If you come in late, I get your car keys. One of mine, I asked her to help us clean the dishes one night after supper. She was probably about 18 at the time. And I said, Bonnie, would you help us clean the dishes? And she just walked past us and headed up the stairs and said, are you on pills? And just disappeared upstairs. Okay, now, basically, remember the over parent that we talked about last time? The over, middle, and under? The over parent would say, you get down right here, right now, young lady, you do what I say because I'm your father and you will not talk to us like that. Now, if you do that, she's going to eat your lunch. It's going to be a train wreck. You do that with a teenager, you create a power struggle, and they're better at being immature than you are, okay? They will win. That is home field advantage. That's like playing LSU in Tiger Stadium on Halloween. I mean, you're crazy if you do that. So I let her go, and with teenagers you have plenty of time to discipline. They have a lot of abstract reasoning. They remember well. It's not like a 2-year-old. So I just kind of thought a while, and she went and got her car keys off the key rack, put them in my pocket. And about an hour later I hear her clacking down the stairs, and I hear her messing around in the keys, looking for the keys, and she can't find them. And she comes in and she's like, I can't find my car keys. And I said, I know, I've got your car keys. And she goes, I gotta go see Chris. And I said, "Are you on pills?" So anyway, discipline with teens has to do with that more natural consequences. I was seeing this kid in my office once, and his parents basically were pretty controlling, intrusive, jerky, parenty types. And he kept going, "Man, I just want you to leave me alone and let me learn from my own mistakes, man." You know, the type. And I wanted to like try to teach him about, you know, valid, loving reality and authority. And yet I wanted his parents to back down some, but I also wanted to kind of work with his whole demand to learn it on his own. He was telling them, "I would rather just learn this on my own, man. Let me learn from my mistakes." Well, anyway, he gave me a chance because they got up to leave at the end of the session, and he left his ball cap in my office. And so I went out, and they were checking out, and I said, "Hey, dude, come here." And he came over to me, and I said, "Look, I know what you're saying about, like, you know, learning from your mistakes and everything. Like, is that what you want me to do? Like, would you rather me, if I had any information that you thought might be really helpful to you, would you want me to tell you, or do you want me to just kind of let you learn from your mistakes?" And he's like, "Let me learn from my mistakes, man." I'm like, "Okay." So I kept his hat. Basically, I tell you that story because you will have interactions with kids in which, if you stay on your toes, you will get lots of chances to help them learn like that, okay? And when he came back next week, I said, "Here's your hat." Now, I could have given it to you last week. You told me you wanted to learn from your mistakes. How's that working for you? Okay. Good and bad. Making sense of bad and good in life. Teenagers are burdened by this. Think about how much of their life is about, am I cute enough, am I smart enough, am I popular enough, am I cool enough, am I whatever, or I hate you, I hate your rules, the world's not fair, I'm scared I'm not going to get cheerleader. I mean, their life is very burdened by how fallen life can be and how fallen they can be. And a lot of our job as people engaged with teenagers is to help them manage the losses in their lives and the losses about who they are. And the problem is that, especially in our culture is such a conscientious set of parents, and we have so many resources to help our children that we tend to help our children. And so many of the kids I see nowadays have been helped so much that they have no idea that they have the internal capacity to actually deal with the yuck in life. They're used to being rescued and coddled. And they run into the lack of coddling in real life and they fall apart. I see these kids when they're 22 and they can't function in life. They're depressed or anxious or freaked out or whatever like that. So one of the things I tell parents, and I'm going to tell you, is basically when it comes to making sense of the yuck in life and helping a young person do that, the goal is not to protect them from suffering. The goal is to help them learn to suffer well. In other words, God made us in such a way that pain itself does not hurt us. Pain itself does not harm children. Okay? Unresolved pain harms children. Pain does not hurt us. If pain comes in the context of love, go read Paul. It's life-giving to us. It makes us stronger. It makes us more Christ-like. We grow. It produces a weight of glory. Unresolved pain harms us. Alone pain harms us. Pain by itself hurts. Pain alone is hell. So what I hear in my office is not, you know, Dad was a crazy alcoholic and everybody was like hated each other. What I hear in my office is, Dad was a crazy alcoholic and everybody hated each other, and, say it with me, no one ever talked about it. Get it? Okay, the point is not that things were bad. The point is that things were bad and I was alone. Things were bad and no one was with me. So what do you do to help metabolize pain? How do you help someone learn to suffer well? Well, you quit protecting them. You doctors are condemning these antibacterial goos that, we use all the time. And they're saying basically, the clean moms are raising a whole generation of children without immune systems, because they don't have any germs. They're perfectly sterile all the time. And so they don't build the ability to deal with yuck. Doctors are saying, you ought to let your kids eat dirt, pick that gum off the bottom of the table at Applebee's, you need to just let them eat the yuck in life, But anyway, so the way you help someone learn to deal with pain is, if pain alone is hell, pain connected creates deeper strength and creates the ability to metabolize the yuck. There's a little model I have for helping people deal with pain, and y'all help me remember this model next hour when we start talking more about how to help kids. But there's 3 places you can be regarding somebody's pain. One is to blow it off. And that is when they're hurting, you sort of do the whole, well, think about the starving children in India thing. Well, I know that's bad, but you could have cancer. Or, another Christian version of this is you can 828 them. Romans 828 them. Yeah, but all things work together for good, so basically I don't care how you feel. In a real sanctified sense, get over it. This is sort of like big boys don't cry. This is, oh, come on, it didn't hurt that bad. This is, blowing off. The other thing we do, the favorite Southern parent remedy is we try to fix. And fix is, your child comes in and they're hurting about something. We're like, well, nobody's going to hurt my baby. We're going to take you you didn't make football team, so we're going to take you to New Orleans and, take you to the aquarium and we're going to show them what a good time is. It's like, nobody's going to hurt my baby. In other words, what you'll see a lot of parents do, and this is one of the reasons kids don't talk to their parents, is parents will see their children suffering and will get more upset about it than their children. All right, so here's this kid. They just didn't get cheerleader. That stinks, right? Now, I got 2 options. I can really feel stinky about the fact that I didn't get cheerleader, or I can tell my mom about it, and now I can feel really stinky about the fact that I didn't get cheerleader, and I have a complete whacked out mom. Now, which would you rather have? I can sit in my room and cry and feel bad about this, or I can hear my mom go, oh my gosh, now you'll never get in a sorority, and now you'll never meet the right man, and it's like she's ruined my life now. Now, mom says, are you okay, honey? What are you going to say? I'm fine. Right? I tell parents, basic principle is you can never get more upset than X minus 1 the amount of upsetness your child is. X being the integer that defines how upset your child is. Okay? So if your child is this upset about cheerleader, you can be this upset and no more. And if you are, go talk to your spouse or your therapist. One of the reasons they don't talk to us is because we'll freak out. So one of the things that y'all can do is to be able to manage your own feelings enough. Like your example was a great one. His ability to manage his own feelings of helplessness. Am I helping this kid? Are we wasting our time? That's what all of us would feel as a counselor in that situation. I'm not getting through this kid. I bet, smart old John Cox could. What's wrong with me? I mean, we do these mind games to ourselves. Why am I not getting, we feel this pressure. Our ability to manage our own feelings and sit with that helplessness is what cured this kid. Get it? So the need we have to fix it is huge, especially when we're in a helping kind of role. Can I sit with the fact that I might not be able to help this kid, but I'm just going to love them as best I can? I might need to sit with them and let them feel lots of pain and hurt that I can't just fix and make it go away. Instead, it gives us our third option of what to do with pain, and that is be with. Just for kicks, go do a word study at some point on how many times God uses the word with in Scripture. I think it's his favorite preposition. No matter what you're going to do, I will be with you. Walk through the valley of shadow of death, I'm going to come in there and make it all better. No, that's not what he says. He says, I will be with you. Okay? Tabernacle, God with us. Emmanuel, God with us. What's the goal of the universe? I will be your God and you will be my people and I will dwell among you. I will be with you. I mean, he just is all over this. What's John 1? The Word was God, and the Word was with God. You guys are Greek scholars. With, what's the Greek? Prosopon, that face-to-face, breath-to-breath intimacy with, okay? God made us in such a way, like we said yesterday, that you take pain, you take yuck, and you get with, and there's that magic that happens. You start feeling like somebody gets it, somebody cares about me. Think about what you do when somebody has a death in the family. You don't go over to their house after the funeral and say, hey man, they're in heaven, they're with Jesus, this is great, you know, you should get over it. You put your arm around them, you just go, God, I'm with you, I love you. Oh. And that just starts metabolizing it. That just starts healing it. Something about that with, having someone else with us in our pain, takes pain that is otherwise intolerable and makes it tolerable. Yes.
Is there a way to do, I'm just thinking in my mind about the with you and the blow it off. How do you think about, when is the right time when a student's dealing with something that you either relate to personally and have an ability to talk to? There's a way that you can talk to them that actually is a blow off, right? I know exactly how you feel. No, you don't.
Right, yeah.
I've been through that before. That's a shutdown, right? When people say that to you, you can really shut people down. So
potentially.
How do you begin to move into a student's life well when they're going to get divorced and you went through divorce? How do you know when the right time of your being with them is then is there something in the mix that you're trying to help them? Because I just know that I had that done to me when I was growing up.
Right, yeah.
They knew exactly how I felt. They had no idea how I felt.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to do that to students. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
think about where those lines are and to help parents too, who I know when they're parenting will say, well, I know exactly how you feel because of da-da-da-da-da-da. They don't. They
Right.
don't know how that kid feels.
Yeah. That's such a great question. What you're talking about, I think, is what you're talking around without bullseyeing it is the issue of empathy. In other words, what you're saying is, yes, it is healing and life-giving to people to know that I am not alone in my pain. Now, one of the ways I can do that is to know that somebody else has walked through that similar kind of pain. But what you're really saying is, how do I help them get it that I get it? Okay? Well, you know, I mean, I'm not completely against sharing your own experience later on, but what I would do, if you really had that experience, and I tell married couples this, instead of saying you understand, show them you understand. In other words, if you've had that experience, you're like have, you know, secret intel to be able to be empathetic to them in a way that's going to like blow their doors. I would say, man, God, I can't believe that you're dealing with that now. I bet you wake up in the morning sometimes and it's like your eyes open and you go, oh my gosh, this isn't a dream. This is really real. That really happened last night. My parents are really getting a divorce. And maybe that's because you remember feeling that way, but don't tell them that, and they'll go, yes, exactly, I did that this morning. How do you know that? And I go, well, I'm you know, my life ain't a bed of roses either. I just imagine that it must be so frightening to you. Okay, I'm going back in my own experience again, to kind of wonder, God, they're going to go this way and that way with lawyer one and lawyer two, and like, am I going to be okay in that? And they're going to go, yeah. All right, so you don't have to tell them that you know all this because you've been through it. If they ask later on, you can say, you know, I have some similar experiences in my life. If you ever, I mean, I'll be glad to tell you kind of some of the ways I made sense of it. I love with teenagers to ask permission, because that way you're not the parental person offering advice. You're saying, hey, here, I got some advice for you at some point. If you ever want it, let me know. And by the time they ask for it, now they have to take ownership for the fact that they want it. And it sort of cuts out that power struggle issue. Like I'll tell kids all the time, it's like the kid with the hat. Hey, if I have some information that will help you, do you want it? Or you see a kid, like we said yesterday, blowing their money and they're going to need it at the end of the week. I'm not going to go, are you going to blow all your money or are you going to need it at the end of the week? I'm going to say, I got some thoughts about your money if you want. Let them then say, yeah, what is it you want to tell me? Then you got them. But if it's an issue of like self-disclosure, I would say, you know, I got some issues in my own life that kind of parallel it. If you ever want to hear it, let me know. And then just let them tell you. Okay? Otherwise, I would use that intel to be like master Green Lantern empathist. Okay? You'd be able to really get inside their gourd. All right, it's about 9:30. Is that when we need to stop? And when do we start over there?
Can you give three reads that you would recommend?
Reads?
Yeah.
Books?
Yeah.
I'm really so bad at that because I have post-traumatic stress disorder from grad school. Seriously, I was an English major. All I did was read, and I hadn't read since. Because a lot of my a lot of what I've been teaching y'all, the original skeleton of that came from my schooling at Rosemead in Los Angeles. And a couple of guys I went to school with at Rosemead are now like, you know, rich and famous super psychologists, John Townsend and Henry Cloud. Y'all know them? Anyway, a lot of their books will parallel some of this skeleton. It's sort of like this is the skeleton, the Rosemead skeleton taken the John Cox way, and theirs will be the Rosemead skeleton kind of taken the John and Henry way. But they will talk about the 4 food groups I talk about. They'll talk about sort of that mentality of way of looking at character and the heart as a way of changing. So that'd be probably the best direction I would go. John Townsend and Henry Cloud. Boundaries book. John's book, Hiding from Love, is a great intro to all of this. But now they've got like, you know, 80 books. Boundaries with, you know, boundaries with pets. I mean, they got them all, you know. And I think, you know, boundaries kind of caught on for them. But as you can see from our discussions, boundaries, I think it's a little bit of a stretch to have a book just on boundaries. Because if I can't set boundaries on y'all, if I can't say no, why can't I? Probably because I have attachment problems. I don't feel safe. You're not going to love me if I say no. Or probably because I have shame issues. If I say no, you're going to think I'm bad. So, I mean, I think all these have to kind of go together. So to pull out the issue of boundaries, you know, I think it's got a role, but I kind of want to teach the whole shebang, Brad. What?
There's somebody that safe haven marriage, they seem to be about attachment in some ways, attachment theory.
Who?
Safe haven marriage, they wrote a book. I can't think of who the guy is either.
Like I say, I don't know books. Yeah. All right, let's adjourn to the big building. Let's go interrupt Stacy Croft.
Hey, could y'all do me a favor and throw away trash and bring your chairs?
Quick question.
Yeah.